In the UK, on the 11th of November every year, it's Remembrance Day, where we remember the people that were killed in the First and Second World War, and currently our brave soldiers who are out fighting in Afghanistan and other places in the Middle East. So I wanted to do an art journal page to commemorate this. So first of all, I've started off putting on a good coat of gesso on the page. I want to try a technique that I saw Kelly Merton do the other day, where you put the gesso on quite thick and then paint and then heat it up until it bubbles. So that's going to be the background of this page. I hope it works out okay. Anyway, like I say, you need to put on a fairly thick coat of gesso, so I'm going to put that and then make sure that it's thoroughly dry before I move on to the next step. Okay, here I'm showing you lots of different shades of blue that I've got, and that was a white, and I'm just going to start throwing these blues randomly onto the paper and just blending them in, and generally making a mess of the page, but it's good fun. I find it really quite relaxing to just be messing about with paint, and I haven't really got a plan at this stage. I just know that I want lots of different shades of blue. That one was slightly purple, so I'm checking it out because it looks like it's blue in the bottle, but when it comes out it was slightly more purpler than I would have liked. Oops, my paper's stuck together. I'll wipe that purple off the brush, and now I'm going to throw in some lighter blue. It actually looks white, but it is a light shade of blue, sort of like a baby blue, and that one again is a different shade of blue, although it looks pretty much the same as the one that I just put on as far as the camera is concerned. I decide now that it's a bit too light, so I'm going to throw some more of the cerulean blue back on top, and so I'm trying to blend it a little bit more so that it's not quite so so that you can't quite see all the brush strokes. Now I've got one of these sort of combs that come out of hair dye, and I'm just going to run it along through the paint and add a bit of texture. You can use anything really that you might have in your kitchen drawers, a fork or those rubber things that they use in cooking. Okay, now I've got my heat gun and I'm starting to make the paint bubble. It's not really bubbling as much as I imagined that it would do. There's a couple of good ones coming there, but mostly they sort of bubbled up like that but then disappeared again. I decided to change my heat gun and try a different one that I had to see if that was any better. It did bubble, yes, but I don't know whether it was because I used different paint to Kelly, but it didn't really bubble as much as I would have really liked it to. But I was still happy with the overall effect, and it still gave it some more texture. A lot of the bubbles were really quite tiny. I didn't seem to succeed in getting many of the big bubbles coming up. I've got some ink gold, and I'm just going over now, rubbing with my finger and picking out some of the ridges and the bubbles, and just I've got a bubble there that wasn't quite dry, so I'm just quickly drying it off again. The Inca Gold gives it a lovely sort of sheen on the top, and I really liked the effect that it was doing, because it was picking up all the little tiny bubbles and the ridges that I'd put in with the comb. I'm just sort of going along and then going back over bits that I've done before until I had got as much coverage on there as I was looking for. It's really versatile, that Inca Gold, actually. I find I'm using it for a lot more things, and you can also use it to paint with, a bit like the twinkling H2Os, and it comes in lots of different colours, so it's one of my favourite products at the moment. I also start to go around the edge with it, to make a bit of a border. I find it easier to do with my fingers. Some people use sponges or brushes, but I always seem to feel happier when I'm using my fingers. Here I'm showing you a napkin with poppies, and I'm going to be using those for part of my design, and I'm just telling you that I'm going to be cutting them out off camera. Okay, now I'm showing you the Paper Artsy stamps by Jofi, and I'm going to be using that cross-hatch stamp, and I've got some white chalk ink, colour box chalk ink here, and I'm just stamping randomly all over the canvas with this. I really like this stamp. I think I'm going to be using it quite a lot. It's quite a good general stamp for using in mixed media projects. So I'm just giving it a fairly good coverage all over. Now I'm going to use some Liquitex Basic. I've got a yellow, I've got a stencil that I made myself with some acetate, and I'm going to be stenciling some of this colour. I'm going to use one of the little sponge brushes. I find these are really good for stenciling. It helps you not to get too much paint on so that it runs underneath the stencil, and it also gives a little bit of texture from the sponge. I want this to represent the sun coming up, sunrise. I'm going to add a bit of cadmium red now, just to take off some of the yellow and give it a bit of contrast. Now I'm just going to touch it up a little bit with some more of the Inca Gold. Let's give it a little bit of a shine. Now I'm taking the plastic lid and just using it as a template to draw around. This part is supposed to represent the sunset. I'm using some more of the cadmium red. And some yellow blending in. Now I'm taking some darker blue paint and I just want to give a bit more contrast so that it looks like a darker sky, you know, with the sun going down. So I'm just sort of blending that in with my finger. A little bit. Now I've got some red Liquitex ink. I thought my sun wasn't vibrant enough, so I decided to add a bit of red, and now I'm blotting it just to give it a bit more texture. I was trying to sort of go for the look of, you know, the sun going down when it's really bright red in the sky, and now I'm adding some more Liquitex ink to the sun again to just make it look a bit more vibrant, as if the sun's coming up at daybreak. And now I'm blotting it again with the paper towel, and then I decide to pinch a bit of red from my sun going down and add it. Now I'm just putting my poppies on there for placement, fiddling about with them a bit, trying to get them in position that I'm happy with them. Now I'm drawing round one to give me an idea of its position, and I'm filling that space in with white paint. That's for two reasons. One is that it makes the poppy more vibrant because the paper towels are only thin, and sometimes if you have a dark colour underneath they don't show up very well. And the other reason is that I intend to write around the edge of the poppy, and so I want to have a space where my journaling will show up. Now I'm gluing all the poppies on with gel medium, and then I'm putting a layer of the gel medium over the top as well once they're in position, just to protect them and to keep them in place. It was Claudine Helmuth matte medium that I was using there, but Mod Podge or even PVA glue would do the trick just as well. I'm letting that one hang over the edge, and eventually I'll cut that off. I've just seen here that my white border wasn't really wide enough to write in, so I'm just adding a little bit of extra white paint in a couple of places. It was quite interesting actually, because the blue underneath actually sort of started to come up through the white paint, so some areas ended up a very light blue. Now I'm using my Paper Artsy stamps again. There's some flowers in there, and I just want to use the stalk area with the leaves. They're a bit sort of jazzy and contemporary, so I quite like the look of them, and they looked a bit poppyish, so I decided to use those. Now I'm just putting down some post-it notes just to act as a mask, so that I can stamp down from the higher flowers to the bottom without getting any ink on top of my poppies. It's quite a good idea and does the trick. I really like these stamps actually. I got them as a gift with a magazine subscription, but I think I'll be using them a lot because I really like the design of them. Now I'm going over with my black Pitt pen, big brush pen, just sort of filling in the stalks a bit and going over the leaves. I'm also sort of adding my own bottom to the flowers to make them look a bit more like poppies. You know, they've got that sort of black bit underneath. And I quite like the way that it came out really. It gave it a sort of sketchy look. Now I've got a black marker pen. It's one of the Sakura what do they call them? Sakura Micron pens. But it didn't work very well, so I changed over to just a plain black gel pen, and I started to write all around the edge of all the poppies. We will remember them. I'm just writing it over and over again around the circle of the flower. I originally here volunteers sell poppies that we wear on our lapels, and it's always celebrated at the same day. This year they also had some ceremonies on the previous Sunday, Remembrance Sunday, but the actual Remembrance time is 11 o'clock on the 11th of the 11th day of the 11th month, which is the actual day that the war ended. So now I've gone around there, and now I'm adding a quote that they always read out at the ceremony, which says, "At the going down of the sun and in the morning we will remember them." And I've got my little alphabet stamps here, and I'm just stamping again on top of the sunset. Again, it will say, "We will remember them." It always makes me feel really sad, actually, every year, to think of all those young men that gave their lives. Some of them were sent into battles that they didn't have a hope of winning, and were just killed in their tracks. My generation is lucky really that we've grown up without any major wars. I know there's been the wars in the Falklands and Iraq and Afghanistan. I just wish everybody would learn to love each other and stop fighting. If everybody refused to go to war, there wouldn't be any more wars, and that would make me very happy, but I can't see it ever happening. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy my page.